What is the difference between an autistic child and a child that misbehaves? How do you identify the types of behaviors in a child who is autistic? Autistic children are not by default defiant. Autistic children are not by default troublemakers. Autistic children are definitely not here to disturb any illusion of a balance, but rather, if you think about it, what do autistic children do the most? They thrive the most when you drop your agenda, whether it's as a parent or a caregiver. When you become irrelevant, what then becomes relevant is their autism. When their autism becomes relevant, you can identify when they are actually feeling dysregulated because of anything. It could be something that you can't hear, you can't see, you can't sense with your senses, but your autistic child can, because they're highly sensitive. And because of sensory overload, sometimes they might resort to coping strategies. So what sometimes might get labeled as them being defiant, them not behaving, them not complying, or them being deficient in some way or the other in the way that they present themselves, the mere fact that they're even using a coping strategy, it goes to show just how normal they are. Because it is only when our balance is disturbed, when something is upsetting us, that we then move into a form of coping, a coping mechanism. Whether you are an autistic child or you're not, we will all, children or not, adults included, have coping mechanisms. Most of you who have gone through inner child healing, most of you who have grown up in obviously traumatic childhoods, and you've grown up or been exposed to that kind of environment when you're growing up, which is very obvious to you, you will put down a lot of things to that environment, which developed in you coping mechanisms that allowed you to go on, so that what then emerged was a false persona which was not you. So what happens with an autistic child? They too then develop these things. For an autistic child, maybe flapping their hands, maybe repeatedly asking you the same question. Now, how many neurotypical children do that? When you start to ask, why is a child behaving in a certain way every time they do, rather than you trying to correct the behavior or trying to redirect the behavior or even trying to move them to another zone. If you're a if you're a teacher or if you're running a school, you may have different zones of regulation. Instead of trying to do that, just simply validate how they're feeling and then step in, and doing so will get them to feel seen and heard as would any other child. So the coping strategy that you adopt is like any other child. Let them feel seen and heard. Let them not come out of it feeling I am bad, feeling I hate myself, when in fact it is not down to them, especially when they are still very, very young. So young that they don't even know what's good and bad. They haven't even learned about behaviors, but right now they're just trying to survive. Right now they're trying to find their way. Right now, up until the age of 7, a child doesn't even understand that they're experiencing sensory overload. Sometimes children don't even know that they're hungry, don't even know that they're sleepy. And this is where adults take in that role of finding out, why is my child doing that? And if you're a teacher or if you're an educator, you find out, why are they behaving in that way? Now, all of us collectively put together, when we create that space for neurodivergence to be an acceptable and a very normal divergence that is very natural to just being human, and therefore making us all very unique in the way that we present ourselves. And we immediately go into a completely different sphere. And as an adult who knows about coping strategies, coping mechanisms, then you can help this child by identifying that they might at that point be overwhelmed. Look around you. Are there loud sounds? Was there a dog that was barking that you couldn't hear that they can? Was there a routine that you might have disturbed? Have you said something? The more you do this, now if you're a caregiver, if you're somebody that is looking after them, if you're a parent, what you can do at home all the time is every time your child starts to stim as well, they repeatedly ask you a question, they're trying to tell you something, there's something that is bothering them. Try to get to the root of what is bothering them, and you will only get to the root of what is bothering them when you yourself ask why. Apart from asking why is get them to feel safe again, reconnect. When the trust between them and you is broken, you then become just another predator. You become another thing for them to then shut down and avoid, rather than for them to trust, to connect and rebuild, so that they're then able to explain as much as they can, whether they are talking or they're not talking, but in whichever way that they're able to communicate, you will know. But you've got to be listening. You've got to be listening without any predisposition as to what is a normal behavior, as to what is a normal child. Folks, sending you so much love as always. And if you've got somebody or you yourself are neurodivergent, then celebrate the fact that you're uniquely human. Lots of love.